Hey guys, welcome back to Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin. My name is Tom, and in this episode we will be going on to complete the Lost Bastille and Sinner's Rise. Now, down here, this took me by quite a surprise. I'm about to get attacked by another pursuer, and this actually scared the crap out of me when I first encountered him, because I don't actually... well, this wasn't here in the original version, so this was a giant surprise to me. I was expecting just a single undead dog to be down here, but in fact it ended up being a pursuer. Now these guys aren't as difficult as they would be in the boss room. They actually go down like normal enemies, or they only take a few hits, rather. And the thing I like most about this is that they're using them in places you would not expect at all. So like, you just go and pick up that item, and then all of a sudden a pursuer rises from behind you and tries to get the jump on you with their surprise attack. Now that, it completely worked in my opinion, because it took me by surprise like crazy. And I like this because, well, before in the previous episodes I was stating that they could have been using the Cyan Knights or the kind of more difficult enemies like that to represent the kind of like a Black Knight in this game. But now I think they're using pursuers to achieve that, because they're popping up more and more all over the place, and there's actually two in this level that you'll see. And for me, this works much better because they're actually protecting things like the Belfry Luna that are actually quite secretive. Although, when it comes down to it, I suppose if you had a pursuer guarding a king's gate, it would work just as well. But anyway, apologies for this upload being so long after the last episode. I've just been having a few issues over the last few days with sickness, and also my headphones have recently broken, and they were actually quite pricey when I first purchased them, so that's kind of a downer for me. I'm using just Apple headphones right now. Luckily, I do have an actual desk microphone, so I don't have to replace that. I only have to replace my headphones. So I can still continue making videos as long as my microphone still works. And so far, it's going great. But anyway, yeah, we're going into winter here in Australia, so it's getting a lot colder than it usually would, because if you know, Australia is in the tropics, and when it goes into winter in the tropics, it doesn't get as cold as everywhere as in the rest of the world, but it does get quite cold still, and I'm not quite used to that. So I usually get a cold within the first few weeks of winter here, and it doesn't go away for quite a while. I still have a little bit of it now. Anyway, right here we're seeing the Belfry Gargoyles soar over the Lost Bastille and create a ruckus. And that's a new feature as well. Usually we would only see them at the bonfire at Sinner's Rise, so they've added more of those in as well, which is good to see. And just for those wondering, yes, I will be doing both Belfry Luna and Belfry Sol, even though Belfry Sol is kind of more mandatory if you choose to go down and get the bonfire that is in the Iron Keep, and Belfry Luna is completely optional. I will strictly be doing Belfry Luna and Belfry Sol just to cover everything in the game, and literally get all the lore that I can. Now, the reason I'll be going to Belfry Sol is to talk about the Belfry Gargoyles that we saw just then, and we will see later on as well. I'm not going to do that right now or in the next episodes, but I will go back to it eventually. And also, I forgot to point it out before, but when we were on the bridge and I went to the edge where the destructible boxes were and picked up that item, we got something called the Bastille Key. Now, what this does is that it allows us to open certain gates in the Lost Bastille that we wouldn't be able to until we finished Belfry Luna. If I did Belfry Luna in the original game, I would be able to get the Bastille Key and then go on to fight the Lost Sinner and light up the room. But if I didn't do Belfry Luna, and then I went on to fight the Lost Sinner, I would have to fight her in complete darkness. But what they've done in Scholar of the First Sin now is they're giving the Bastille Key to you much earlier in the level, so you don't have to go through Belfry Luna to just get that key, which is amazing. That's a great new placement for that item, and I give them props for that. And while I'm at it and we're fighting this new enemy, or rather this enemy type that we were seeing here, I should probably explain what they are. They are called the Undead Citizens, or Raptured Hollows. They're basically hollows that have been mummified, so essentially all their internal organs have been removed, and they have been placed in prisons. And obviously, because undeads don't die, they still come back to life even without their organs, and they're now petrified as well, or they at least exude petrification, which when they hit the player or explode on the player, they have one of three effects that are within this game. They can either petrify the player, or, well, they do a lot of damage while they're doing this, by the way. They can either petrify the player, concuss the player, or give the player a concussion and keep them down for longer, or they can blow up and cause a fiery explosion. And these are very dangerous things, because petrification, if the bar fills all the way up, you die instantly. Fire, if you're near barrels and they explode, you're going to have a bad time and you're going to get a lot of damage dealt to you. And then concussion just keeps you on the ground for longer, so other ones can jump on top of you and deal even more damage. And guess what? Here we have another pursuer, and this one's in a very tight spot, and we also see the gargoyles as well again. But before I can get a chance to look at the gargoyles, I get attacked by this mofo. And like I said before, they're starting to put the pursuers around areas that are kind of more secretive and in unexpected places, and they're doing quite a good job of it so far in the Lost Bastille. In the Lost Bastille, there's only 2 pursuers, and this is the second one out of the 2. And this might be because they removed the Hyde Knights from the area. The Hyde Knights were originally the most difficult enemies in this area, so I don't know, maybe they're just kind of evening things out by putting pursuers here instead, since the Hyde Knights kind of didn't make sense, because Hyde Knights belong in Hyde, and it makes sense now. When the pursuers that are just in the general game and not in a boss attack you and rise up to fight, they're already powered up. They already have the red eyes, or the red eye rather, and this means that they can use magic attacks and a different type of moveset than when they are normally not powered up. And this makes them a lot more dangerous, because as you can see, he's glowing with darkness. It's tough to say what this darkness is. It could be an abyss, could just be humanity burning within them or something. But it doesn't matter now, because they are actually quite easy to kill once you get the hang of them, as you can see here. And they drop Twinkling Titanite, which is really convenient, because Twinkling Titanite and Petrified Dragon Bones are a real necessity within this game. And I'm glad that they are actually putting in more things that drop them. And right here, for those wondering, well, in a second you'll see, but for those wondering why I didn't take the path to the left and I just jumped back across to continue, it's because if you go that way, you will have to drop down, or if I remember, you will have to drop down and take the long way back up to where I am now, and I just didn't feel like doing that. Might be just laziness or whatever, but I don't remember that item being particularly good either, so I just didn't bother with it. So yeah, we'll just continue on here, and we'll go up and see Strayed in his petrified form. We can't do anything about that right now, since we had to use our Fragrant Branch of Yore on that hollow outside the door to the Ruined Sentinels, but we will get one after the Lost Sinner boss, and we will come back and free Strayed. But for now, we're just going to talk about some interesting stuff that has come to light in recent interviews with Miyazaki-san over Dark Souls 3. He's mostly just talking about game mechanics and what is going to be new in Dark Souls 3. And like I said, some very interesting stuff has come out in these recent, or rather this one recent interview. And in a second, I'm just going to get jump attacked by a nimble shadow, one of the assassins, and it scares the living shit out of me. While I was playing this, I actually fell back in my seat. It actually scared me that much. I think it's like right here. So I'm just going to read some stuff that Miyazaki-san has said in this recent interview about game mechanics and the world building of Dark Souls 3. It's quite interesting stuff, and good to know before you actually jump into Dark Souls 3 and the hype surrounding it. When Miyazaki-san was addressing the combat mechanics of this game, or Dark Souls 3 rather, he states that everything is designed to kill you, and whilst this factor has been prominent in the previous Souls games and Bloodborne especially, it is apparently extremely important in Dark Souls 3, because he then goes on to state that observing enemy patterns is key, and there's still that need to back away from fights to separate enemies. Going up against 2 knights, well, knights that were seen in the pre-alpha footage at E3, and attempting to take them down 2 at a time is quite impossible apparently. So this game goes back to kind of what Demon Souls had with the Blue-Eyed Knights and Red-Eyed Knights, I suppose, in the early game, where trying to take them on at a low level would pretty much end up in instant death if you were not good enough at playing the game yet. By the sounds of it, we're going back to what makes Dark Souls, Dark Souls. And it also seems as if we will be getting a slightly new difficulty curve with new character movements that are more fast-paced as well. So, the way I see it, we're going back to kind of like a mix of Dark Souls 1 with a bit of faster character movement like Bloodborne, but it won't be that fast. It'll just be a faster version of Dark Souls 1 with new fighting abilities and a new world to explore. And I'm totally all for this. I honestly hope that this is the best one to date, and it knocks all the others out of the park. Not to say that the others weren't good, they were all great, but I hope this one just steps it up to the next level and gives us something completely mind-blowing. But anyway, I'll put the link to that interview in the description, so you guys can read it for yourselves and interpret it in your own words, and interpret how you feel about this game and how you think it's going to go. Because we need to get back to a bit on Dark Souls 2. Now, I'm in a place that, well, you can get here with an antiquated key that you get in the Lost Bastille if you take the crow to the other side, but I chose to come here down the lift instead, because there's really no point in going and getting the antiquated key that way if you can do it this way. I had someone recently in the comments tell me that the Dull Ember is now over on that side of the Lost Bastille and not in the Iron Keep, so I suppose that is just another reason to go over there. I believe that was Daniel I or Daniel L that said that, so thanks for that. It saves me a lot of time. But I didn't feel like I should just go and get the antiquated key just to come here. So yeah, but like I said, I will go back to that part later and get both the Dull Ember and the antiquated key. So don't worry. Even though the antiquated key is a bit irrelevant now, because this is the only place it leads to, I believe. By the looks of it, this was a kind of treasure room in the Lost Bastille. Maybe where they housed most of their weapons or something, because by the looks of it, this was a room with a lot of gunpowder in it. And, oh, that rocket by the well is you don't want to hit that down, because that sends up a bunch of those Rakjad citizens that explode when they jump on you. So avoid that at all costs. But like I was saying, this place kind of looks like either one of two things: a treasure room for the Lost Bastille, or a kind of armory. Judging from the fact that there are armored guards, the royal swordsmen all around that area, it may in fact be an armory or a place where they keep a lot of weaponry. Judging from the gunpowder and the chests with the weapons in them. This is just my interpretation of it. Of course, you can take what you want from it, but I just see those as the two most likely possibilities. And I totally forgot that there was an explosive wall next to me on the right, back in that room where the barrels were. I will definitely go back for that later. In this playthrough, I'll make sure I go back to everything that I missed once I realize that I've missed it in these videos, so don't worry about that. I'm pretty sure that was just an Archdrake shield or something in that secret wall there, so it's nothing too big to miss. And I also didn't have a Pharos Lockstone to light up the room and get that secret chest either. I think that was a Estus Flask shard in the Pharos. If I would have used the Pharos Stone, I think it would have led to an Estus Flask shard, so kind of disappointing that I didn't have it here, because we're going to be fighting the Lost Sinner soon, and probably going to need as much Estus as I can get. But looks like the Nimble Shadow is stuck in the wall there, and I think if Ragdoll Physics would have been in this game, they wouldn't have had those problems, because if the collision boxes hit each other, they just bounce off and ragdoll to the floor. Oh, and also that item that I just passed on the way up the lift on the side there, you can get it by jumping down very carefully from that location in that room, down that hole, but you can die very easily because it's such a thin platform. And it's not really worth it because all you get is a bonfire aesthetic, if that's what it still is. People have been pointing out to me that there's a lot of minor things that have been changed, like the location of the Dull Ember, for instance, and many more things like that. One example of that is the Fragrant Branches of Yore. There's a lot more of them and a lot more places to use them. Speaking of Fragrant Branches, this is what we need to free Strayed from his stone prison right there. That is Strayed. He is petrified, and we need a Branch of Yore to free him. And here we also get our first petrified dragon bone. Now, what the Petrified Dragon Bone is, I think I go into it here, I believe. Yeah, Twinkling Titanite is apparently like a cosmic form of Titanite. And the Petrified Dragon Bone, commonly called Dragon Bone, is used to basically enhance boss weapons. I don't have any yet because first, to get any, we need to free Strayed. For that, we need a Branch of Yore, and then we also need boss souls to actually buy the weapons. Also, I just realized what the purpose of that hole there is. It's actually just a shortcut back down to that floor rather than taking the stairs. That is literally the laziest shortcut I have ever seen put in one of these games. I mean, what happens if you don't open the gate and then you go up the stairs, you use the Bastille key on that door, and then open the door and fall down the hole? How do you open the gate to get back into that room? I don't know if there's actually a lever on the outside of the gate because I didn't look, but that seems like a pretty big design flaw to me if that actually happens. I mean, you could always use a bonfire or a homeward bone to get back on the other side of the gate, but then you'd have to run all the way back there. I really hope there is a lever to open the gate from the other side, if that's the case. Anyway, here we are at Sinner's Rise. Basically, this is just one big tower that leads all the way down into the depths of the Lost Bastille, where the Lost Sinner is located. Two things to point out while we're on these ramparts. For one, the obvious gargoyles in the distance. And then in a second I will turn so you can see the Royal Swordsman, or rather the Royal Crossbowman, to the side here. There used to be 3 of them, or rather I've actually already killed him because he was down there. There used to be 3 of those crossbows, or crossbow-wielding swordsmen up here, and they would shoot you as you were running across that bridge, and they would also shoot you as soon as you got up from the bonfire if you used it. Now there is only 1 of them. This is a huge improvement, and in fact, they probably should have taken all of them away. Actually, no, I'll say that I'll give them the 1. One of them is good here, because it still serves the purpose of the bridge when you're running across it, along with the jailer at the bottom. And they don't aggro on you or rather, it doesn't aggro on you immediately when you sit at a bonfire, which is great. Those 3 ranged attackers were the most annoying part of Dark Souls 2 for me. It was ridiculously annoying. And you're probably wondering why they were the worst or most annoying part of Dark Souls 2 for me. It's because during one of my first playthroughs, I joined the Heirs of the Sun Covenant, and the Lost Bastille, or rather the Sinner's Rise at that bonfire, is where I would do most of my summoning, or where I would get summoned the most, and I would kill the Lost Sinner with other players. But because the Heirs of the Sun Covenant requires me to fulfill 30 summons, that means I had to deal with those 3 bowmen 12 times in a row. And after 12 times they despawned, or I'm not sure if it's 12, but they despawned after a number of kills. But up until then, it was completely and utterly repetitive and annoying. But thank God they fixed that, and good job to FromSoft for doing so. I'm not sure what I was doing here. I think I was testing out my character's weight and looking at if I could get the Cyan Knight armor set on and still have my fast roll, or rather my smooth roll. But I think I ended up just going with the Drangleic armor regardless, because it gave me more defense and I could still smooth roll with it. I think the armor set that I'm going to end up going with for this playthrough will be the Fume Knight set when I get to the DLC. And I was like, when the DLC first came out, I don't want to say like sound hipsterish or anything when I say this, but if you know that armor set combination with the Fume Knight armor, leggings, gloves, and then Suralon's helmet, I was using that combination within the first 2 days of the Old Iron Kings DLC release. Probably not a wise decision to have jumped from that height. I've been playing Bloodborne again and I got a bit used to the fall range and fall damage from that game. Anyway, yeah, that, like I was talking about, that armor combination, it looks badass. When you see it, you'll probably agree. But I might go with the King's Crown as well, instead of Sir Alon's helmet. I remember when the Old Iron King DLC, or the Iron King DLC came out, people were referencing that the Fume Knight's armor looked similar to Artorias' in Dark Souls 1, and people were coming up with all these crazy theories, and it just made me think that the Dark Souls 2 lore was getting, or Dark Souls 2 lore theories were getting way out of hand, and I'm glad they've kind of settled down now. But some parts of the Dark Souls community do actually jump to lore conclusions that are unexplainable quite fast, and sometimes there's not a lot of thought put into them at all. And not to say that everyone does that, but there are a certain number of people that do make theories like that. without much stuff to back them up. Like, they just take a look at the Fume Knight's armor and go, hey, that looks similar to Artorias's. Maybe the Fume Knight's Artorias. And I'm like, well, I don't think that could be possible, but if you can explain it to me, maybe it could be. But most of the time, no one can explain those type of things, which makes believing them even harder. But then there's some other times where the theories and the stuff people come up with make you question the Dark Souls lore itself. And it's kind of like the tinfoil hat theory, where people believe in UFOs and aliens, but no one actually has solidified proof that they exist. There are so many Dark Souls theories and Bloodborne theories and Demon Souls theories that are like that. And basically what I'm getting at with this is, that's kind of what I try to steer clear of. Whilst I still do make theories and theory videos, I at least try to give those theories and speculations sensible, reasonable, and credited backstories and information behind them. As long as there is some plausible evidence within the game behind a theory, I can at least find it believable, in a sense. And here I'm just looking at the Blossom Kite shield. This was actually a fan creation that was submitted to Dark Souls 2 when they were creating shields, and I believe this was one of the winners, along with the Serpent shield that we find later in the Dragon Aerie in the Dragon Shrine. Now, down here there used to be 2 enhanced undead, but it looks like they've swapped those out to have 1 Flexile Sentry down here instead. This makes a lot more sense to me, seeing as the Flexile Sentries were used to keep undead in check. And I suppose the purpose of the Flexile Sentries here would be to act as wardens and keep all of the undead prisoners in their cells. But it looks as though, since the cages have all decayed, the prisoners have most likely escaped, and down here in this part of the Bastille in Sinner's Rise, it would seem as if this was to contain stronger and bigger undead. So I suppose you could argue that the enhanced undead would make sense down here because it is a more contained area for, say, more high profile and dangerous undead. But the Flexile Sentry makes a little more sense to me in the lore, and here I get invaded by the fucking... Oh my god, this invader is... this made me laugh incredibly hard. Anne Frank, and she uses poison gas to kill me. I don't think I've laughed that much at an invasion for so long, which is fucking horrible, because I felt so bad laughing at this, but I suppose I kind of have a thing for dark humor, which is probably insensitive, so I'm sorry about that. But that's just the kind of humor that I was brought up around. So this totally wasn't a bummer for me, because I got to see that amazing invasion. The thing here is, this is where I was talking about in a comment section earlier to someone, that Australian internet compared to the rest of the world and the rest of the multiplayer platform of this game is fucking terrible, because as you saw there, I just got lag stabbed from across the entire room. And this all comes down to the ping speed of my internet. Australian internet, or at least mine that I have, is about 1 megabit speed, maybe 3 megabit at most, and that's probably where it gets up to, which is, it's terrible compared to the rest of the world. I think when I first started with the internet at the house I'm in now, I could download about 4 gigabyte in about 30 minutes, but now it takes about 2 hours to download, 2 or 3 hours to download 4 gigabytes. Whereas if you're living in the US or in some part of Asia, you're probably getting internet speeds of like 3 to 5 megabytes a second, and you can probably download 4 gigabytes in a few minutes, or at least in a fraction of the time it would take me. As it sits right now, these videos that I'm producing for this Let's Play are often around 400 to 800 megabytes, and it takes them around an hour to 2.5 hours to upload. And it takes about maybe 3 to 5 hours to actually produce them, so like maybe 3 hours of playing for a session, and then 3 hours of editing and recording, so maybe 6 hours to produce a video, and then another 2.5 hours to upload the video. And then I have to make a thumbnail for it, etc. Well, the thumbnail has already been made, I'm just changing the numbers at this point. But that's the production process essentially, and that's how long it takes, so maybe 7.5 hours for each video. which is crazy compared to what I could be uploading if I lived in America, or parts of Asia, or just if I had better internet speed in general. Honestly, if I could, I would be making these episodes an hour to 2 hours long each, and this playthrough would be over in maybe 10 episodes. But because of the restrictions that I have, unfortunately, these videos take a lot longer to produce, and I do apologize for that myself from where I'm sitting on this standpoint. But it's mostly just coming down to where I'm located in the world and what resources I have at my disposal at this moment in time. Okay, but enough about that for now. We're about to go fight the Lost Sinner. And this is a very important boss because this is our first great soul that we're going to claim. And as you see here, I'm using the Bastille key to come and light these oil, like these lines of oil that lead into the boss room. And what this does is it lights up the boss room so you don't have to fight the Lost Sinner in complete darkness. If you fight the Lost Sinner in complete darkness, you have a lot less lock-on range. But if you fight her in the lit room, where the torches are completely aflame, then your lock-on distance is as it would be normally. We're going to talk about the Lost Sinner in the boss fight quite extensively, but for now I just need to run back and summon Lucatiel. Okay, so I couldn't remember which pine resin was good against the Lost Sinner, so I think I just went with dark. I was kind of just thinking logically dark against fire, it would make sense, I suppose, but it's probably not that. It's probably like magic or something. Anyway, lore about the Lost Sinner. I'm going to go into her item descriptions, and then I'll explain what her beginnings could have been, and the theories surrounding her. But first things first, the thing that you just saw climb into her eye is known as a Chaos Bug. This is what is controlling the Lost Sinner, and if you remember from Dark Souls 1, the Chaos Bug is also what controlled the Witch of Izalith and the Bed of Chaos. On the wiki it states this: Prisoner of Sinner's Rise, the Lost Sinner eternally punishes herself for the sins of her past. This is from the item description of her soul. The wiki then goes on to state this: Indeed, she committed what some would believe to be the ultimate sin. She attempted to relight the first flame. This part is... I don't know if this is actually said anywhere in the game at all, or if it's in any item descriptions, because I've just done some digging right now, and it's not in any of the item descriptions for the Lost Sinner. I also just checked the list of updates that Scholar of the First Sin brought to item descriptions, and the Lost Sinner was not one of them. So I don't know where this has been brought up on the wiki and why it has been put up on the wiki when none of the item descriptions state so. Of course, I may just be misremembering it being stated in dialogue somewhere in the game, and this may be why. But within the item descriptions for the Lost Sinner itself, it does not state that she relit the first flame. Anyway, the wiki goes on to state, the Lost Sinner possesses the soul of a Great One. She holds the remnants of the soul of the old Witch of Izalith. Aeons have passed since the legendary witch walked the land, but such was her power that it persists even now. This is the first we see of the old souls coming forth in Drang Lake. Basically, the four Lord souls that were in Dark Souls 1 are still around in Dark Souls 2 in the form of remnant souls in the four Great Ones of this game. And we only get them in New Game Plus, which is disappointing. And here you can see me looking at the soul. It doesn't state anywhere in this description that she relit the first flame, or at least tried to. Feel free to correct me in the comments about this. I may just be misremembering the dialogue, or someone saying that she tried to relight the first flame in the game, or maybe it's new dialogue in Scholar of the First Sin, but I haven't heard it yet. Anyway, quickly before we wind up this episode, I'll go into the most popular theory about the Lost Sinner. The theory that makes the most sense for the Lost Sinner is to do with the third DLC in the Ivory King. In the Ivory King DLC, we learn of these priestesses that would remove their eyes so they could see the unseen. And basically, what the theory is here with the Lost Sinner is that she could have been one of those priestesses in Aleum Lois that removed her eye, and with this, she was able to see the old chaos in Aleum Lois, and therefore, being the Lost Sinner now, in the past, she went to the old chaos in Aleum Lois and she may have tried to reignite the old chaos. And when we go to Alayam Lois later on, we will in fact see that the old chaos is still burning below Alayam Lois. This could mean that the Lost Sinner was in fact responsible for the reignition of the old chaos, or rather, the old chaos once again trying to escape into the world. It could be possible that the Lost Sinner, or the priestess that she was back then, took out one of her eyes to see the unseen, noticed the old chaos, and then got infected by a chaos bug and tried to once again release the old chaos herself. But of course, Alsana and the Ivory King stopped this and froze Alayam Lois to stop the old chaos from once again trying to escape. But of course, this theory falls mute if she did in fact try to relight the first flame and had nothing to do with Alayam Lois itself. Once again, feel free to correct me, I could be totally wrong and off base, but like I said, I haven't seen any mention of the Lost Sinner relighting the first flame as of yet, and I don't actually remember hearing it at all in anything but theories for Dark Souls 2. I see it being a complete and utter possibility though, and actually it makes the most sense because, well, she is here in Drain Lake and she's not in Alayam Lois.
Thanks very much.
I did just want to share that other theory though in case anyone had an opinion on it. But anyway, that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching guys, hope you enjoyed, I'll see you next time.